everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Translating Love.
With me, Woifi.
Me, Dani.
Welcome back. We're back.
With a new episode of Translating Love?
This time it's actually a new episode. You were right. And it's super exciting because it's a new episode, you know?
Really?
It's new and it's an episode, so it's a new episode.
It's new and an episode. That's like a double whammy.
I need a new... Whammy!
Whammy!
I need a new, coming in. Because every time we start the podcast, I'm like...
Intro?
Yeah. Coming in.
Coming in. I need a new coming in.
Every time we start, it's like, hey, welcome back to a new episode of Translating Love. And then I say again, hello to this new episode of Translating Love.
You say that it's a new episode at least 3 times.
In the beginning.
In the first 3 minutes.
It's so annoying that it annoys me. And so other people must be annoyed. But other people are like, why is he saying another new episode again and again? Maybe it's a drinking game at this point.
Maybe. Every
time he says new episode, someone drinks.
You'd be drunk in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah. But this is the new... No. Thanks, everybody, for sharing the podcast, for subscribing to the podcast, for giving us a rating on Apple Podcast. If you haven't done it yet, please do that. It takes a few seconds of your time, and it helps us tremendously.
It does indeed.
And... if you want to contact us, or if you want to let us just give us a message or send us something or whatever feedback, you can reach us on our Instagram at Translating Love Podcast or on our Anchor page. All the info is in the description. And we love to hear from you. How are you?
Also, in case any of you have forgotten, because we haven't said it in a while, on our Anchor page, you can leave us a voice message.
Yeah, it's exciting.
And you can ask us a question, or you can just,
tell us how your
say
poop
hello
was
or
today.
Say how your poop was today. And we can play it on the podcast and then respond to it. So
right.
Please do that. It's really fun.
Yes. How are you today?
I'm good. Today. I was a little busy at work the last couple of days, but it's kind of nice. Makes it go quick.
That's good.
How are you today?
I'm good. I'm busy. Lots of stuff going on again this week, and my tooth hurts a little bit.
Your tooth hurts again?
Yeah, and my dentist appointment is in, I think, almost 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope I can make it until then. But other than that, I'm pretty good, actually.
Good.
Yeah, and our anniversary is kind of today a little bit.
Today's the anniversary of when we met.
Right.
So we met 13. Also, when you're listening to it, it's not the anniversary anymore. But as we're recording, it's the anniversary.
Yeah, today's the
18th.
Right.
Of May. We met 13 years ago today.
That's exciting.
Pretty crazy.
13 years ago, I was...
You were just a long-haired Austrian boy. It was pretty shaggy, though.
Shaggy, yeah. I was a weird-haired guy looking pretty dumb.
I mean, I was a weird-haired girl.
In Milwaukee.
Wauwatosa,
going to Wauwatosa East.
High school.
And meeting this crazy woman who I married for whatever reason.
Thanks. It's a nice sentiment.
And for that reason, we thought it would be kind of interesting for us and maybe for you guys to just go back a little bit and compare how we started off this relationship and how we did compared to how we're doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
So reflect a little bit on the relationship and maybe point out some things that have changed and got better, and maybe some things that we still work on. Yeah. So if you think that's a bad idea, say no, please don't do that. Okay.
Okay, great.
So nobody's against it. So let's dive in. We started this relationship 4 years ago? 5 years?
5 years. Almost
really?
5 years.
Almost 5 years. Really?
In July.
Wow. That's amazing. Time flies. 5 years, that's the longest relationship I've been in so far.
Loser. You're the longest marriage I've had.
Same. Yeah, and I mean, compared to when we moved in together, oh man, that was a mess.
That was, I mean, I wouldn't say a mess. It was just an adjustment. I wouldn't say it was a mess.
I think it was a mess.
No, I don't think so. I think we actually, given the circumstances, I think we actually did fairly well. If you think about how, because for those of you who don't know, I moved here. We basically kind of started dating in 2016, but long distance.
Mm-hmm.
So I was still in the US and he was here in Austria. And then and that was the summer of 2016. And then I came to Austria in January of 2017. So it was a short time. It was like a half a year.
Yeah.
And yeah,
mm-hmm.
It was, I mean, that's a big, we knew each other, but not really on a level of like,
not like
that most people know each other when they start a relationship.
Not like
or when they move in together.
Not super, like we knew each other, but not super well yet, to the extent that we knew how we are together, living together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also, I mean, for me, it was that we did an episode on that, like living together, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it was the first time like moving in with someone.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like my biggest adjustment. But then also the, of course, stuff with language barrier and just.
Yeah, because at that point, my German was so like at the bare minimum.
Yeah.
Where it's like I could, order food and I could ask for directions. But other than that, I was pretty lost in terms of the language.
And just in terms of like, living together and navigating through the daily craziness.
Mm-hmm.
And the first couple of months, we basically tried to figure out how are we able to get like a visa, and
that was stressful.
How are we like, what are you going to do here?
Mm-hmm.
Because you had to do something here. And while I was studying.
Yeah.
And oh man, that was a lot.
It was a stressful time. And the thing is, I think that's exactly why I say I think given the circumstances, we did a really good job, because we fought a lot in the beginning, and it was at a lot of points we were like, we can't do this. Like, this is not going to work. But we always, even after a really big fight, we always came back to we want it to work. And I think that was what was important. Like, no matter how often we fought, we still really wanted it to work, and we still knew that it could.
I think a big point was that we never fought about some really serious shit.
It was always really stupid shit that just exploded
like
into something.
Right, 99% of the stuff we fought about was so stupid and so pointless that like 10, 15, like a day after you thought about, okay, why did we even waste so much time to fight about it? So I think that was also a big part, because I
think most of our arguments were caused by like stress, honestly, because I mean, if
and
you think
language
about
barrier,
and language barrier, because I mean, in terms of stress, it was, we had just moved in together. For me, everything was new, and I was in a place where I didn't really have anyone other than you, and that was for me really hard. For you, it was the balancing of like, there's someone new here. I have to share my space now, which you weren't used to, and
you used my toothbrush. You used my toilet brush.
Your toilet brush?
Yeah, like when you clean the toilet. I mean, you never used that. You always left like a shit stain.
Not.
There was always just shit stain in the toilet. Always. Thank God that's over. Yeah, that's the most annoying thing when you, as a man, sometimes you can use your peeing,
your stream,
and try to wash the stain away.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes the stain is so obnoxiously
like glued on
there. So you have to use the brush to really scrape it away, and sometimes even that is really hard. So something's wrong.
Anyways, let's move on now.
But what I wanted to say is that can be a metaphor for something. Nah. No, but
anyways, moving on from that. There was also the factor of like me trying to figure out the whole visa thing, and that was really stressful. But also like, you were studying. I was home when you were studying, and I had nothing to do. I was, what am I supposed to do all day? And you can't spend 24 hours a day looking for a job. I mean, you can, but you would go crazy.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I got a little stir crazy, I think. And so for me, that was really stressful. And being so far away from home was very new. And yeah, it was a lot in the beginning. And also with you studying and you wanting your own space and feeling guilty about like leaving me alone if you wanted your own space. It was a stressful time. It was not easy.
Yeah, you don't think about all that shit going in. But I think one of the biggest things, like looking back and thinking about it, I would probably do some things differently. And also knowing that like living together in the first place, and also the language barrier stuff and the stressful time of me navigating the stress of university and trying to figure out all that stuff, and you trying to figure out like how you can stay here and how we can get like a visa and stuff like that, I would chill more. I feel like, because I got IBS. I had like severe anxiety during the time. So much stuff went down, and I never really got time to chill. During the summer, we did.
Yeah.
We went away to Croatia at one point, and then to your brother and wife.
Naomi.
No. Yeah, but that's, other than that, during the year we never really got to chill. We never had an out time. We had, there was every day we had to figure out that. We had to think about, okay, we need to do that for the visa, okay, blah blah, and then I had to figure out my university shit. So I would probably chill more in hindsight.
But would you, like, knowing like what we went through, would you still, if you knew that was going to be that way, would you still have said that I should move in when I moved in? Yes.
But I think we talked about that. Going to another country is a big thing. And you never can prepare yourself for everything.
Nope.
But the visa stuff, we should have done differently, obviously, because flying back and forth that many times was probably could have been avoided.
Well, so I will say this. The one problem was that you get different answers from different people.
That's a big problem.
And so I called an embassy when I was in the US. I called an Austrian embassy, and they said you can get a visa in Austria. And then when I was here in Austria,
which is true, at a university you can get a visa.
It is true. Yeah.
Yeah.
But when I came here, they're like, no, you have to do that in the US, but that's for like work visa, basically.
Yeah.
So it's a little obnoxious that if you can only do certain types of visas in the country, but the other ones you have to do from your home country. It's very, very obnoxious, and I'm sure it's different for every country.
Yeah. So that's something you can't prepare yourself. But yeah, as I said, in hindsight, I think we should have chilled more, and we should have not taken everything so stressful.
Yeah.
Because then the time probably would have been a little chill.
Speaking of chill, let's take a break.
That's a good segue into the break.
Are we back with a new episode?
No, it's still the same.
Oh, okay.
It's still the same confused. Old episode. But it's, I don't know. Like, you never, when you're in a relationship, you obviously should sometimes reflect back on, like, maybe at the beginning, or maybe at your like previous relationship, and maybe, reflect on it and say, okay, maybe I should have done something better around this time, or I should have something done differently, or maybe I know that I, did something wrong, and I'm not trying to repeat that, or maybe get rid of that character trait of mine. And looking back, there's a lot of stuff that thankfully I worked on and changed a lot. First of all, all the anxiety and depression shit, it's still there, but it's manageable, and it's...
Yeah, we both did a lot of work on anxiety and stuff. That was That was another like tricky navigation for both of us.
Yeah, and just like in terms of growing, you know, everyone thinks at any moment or most of the time you have things figured out, when in fact you don't. You never do. You always grow, and you should continue to grow. Otherwise, you are stuck in at some point. Probably your partner outgrows you and says, "Okay, I'm sorry, but I can't do that anymore," because you're stuck. You are the same person you have been literally 5 years ago, something like that. But I think I've never grown so much in a relationship as in this one.
Same.
Mostly because I had to adapt a lot, and we had to figure out a way to communicate better. But also our like characters are similar in a lot of ways, but then again are not similar, like are pretty different. And we come from a different background and different countries and different cultures, and that all plays into how you are together, and navigating around that and figuring that out. That changed a lot for me.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, I know that, looking back, you hopefully most of the time you can just say, "Oh, I've been so stupid," which of course in hindsight, that's always easy, but that's a good sign, I think, to say you changed a lot and you grew a lot. If you say, you look back and say, "Oh, I've been so stupid doing that shit." And I mean, I can say that for like things that I've done 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So
what's interesting to me though is that when you said it a couple minutes ago, but you said you would say things like, "I could have done that differently," or "I should have done that differently," is how you phrase it. But I look at it, and maybe it's just how you're phrasing it, but it's not how you mean it. But for me, I would almost say I could have done it differently.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I meant.
Because I try to like not say that looking back, I should have done it this way. I mean, sure, you can phrase it that way, but at the same time, had you not done it a certain way, you wouldn't have learned the lesson from it.
Obviously not. That's what I mean.
When I look back at our relationship, there's honestly nothing I would change about what's happened between the two of us and how it all happened, because it brought us to where we are now.
No, obviously. I mean, everything that life throws at you and everything you encounter in terms of struggles and problems and shit is an opportunity to grow and to learn from it. And I think we did that in a lot of aspects, and we continue to do that. And I think that's a big reason why we're pretty solid right now.
I mean, I can't remember the last time we had an argument, quite honestly.
Me neither.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I want to, get her good. But nah, sure, sometimes you have these moments of, God damn it.
No, I mean, there have been times in the last month maybe that I felt like annoyed by something you said or something you did that maybe in the past we would have argued about.
Yeah, 100%.
But I think we've come so far that each of us is able to recognize what's worth it to say, what should I just leave alone because I know that it'll go away and it's fine.
Yeah. For me, a big thing about that is just knowing how I blew up in the past, and just being more chill and being more zen-like, and letting things go much easier. Like in the past,
especially the little things. We used to never be able. Not just you. We used to never be able to.
There were so many
the little things go.
Small little things that in the past we would have argued about 100%. And nowadays, I might get a little agitated. I might feel like, okay.
I can usually tell when you're agitated.
Right. But then I can let it go. I can just walk away, or I can just say nothing. And then at some point I can come forward and say, hey, if I said something that upset you, or if I said something that sounded wrong or that made you feel like a certain way, I'm sorry about that. And I think that's the biggest thing, because it's all about acknowledging something. Even though it might have not been, if you say something and you want to be funny, or you feel like it comes out the wrong way and you hurt the other person, obviously it's not on purpose.
Right.
But things like that can turn into an argument right away. And if both parties are not stepping down and are super stubborn about it, or maybe there's something else in the air already that has been not resolved, then that escalates. And I think we have been really good in trying to acknowledge things like that and right away come forward and say, hey, I'm sorry if I said something.
But also on the other side, I think, especially for me, I used to be, and we've talked about this on the podcast too, but I used to, every little thing that bothered me, I would voice how I felt, and like, this really bothers me, or this bothered me, or you said this, and blah, blah, blah. And I used to think it was a good thing to say those things because you, and to an extent it is, your partner should know things that bother you, but it almost always turned into an argument. And I think that the way that I approached it made you feel kind of attacked. And that was on both of us. Partly it was how I phrased it, but partly it was how you just automatically put like a defense up. But now I think something that I've been really good at is, if there is something that you say that upsets me, or like a joke that you make that I'm just not in the mood for, or that hurts my feelings, I'm really good, I think, now about, and maybe you feel differently, but I feel like I'm really good now about not reacting right away in the way that I used to, where I would get anger right away, but I might hold back a little bit and be a little reserved, but I give myself time to think about it first. And if it still bothers me after some time, I might just say, hey, this kind of bothered me when you said this, but I don't need like a big discussion about it anymore. It's just, I want you to know that it hurt my feelings.
But that's what I said. And most of the time I am already so far that I can tell that I did something, and I can say, hey, if, you know, vice versa, or if I upset you, what I said or whatever, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it like that or something.
And I think I've been better at that as well. Like, if I say something,
I don't think so.
Thank you. But if I'm like in a bad mood or something and I take it out on you, even if I don't mean to take it out on you.
Yesterday.
And I didn't take that out on you. No.
You were so cranky yesterday.
Yeah, but I wasn't taking it out on you. I was just expressing that I was frustrated with other things that had nothing to do with you.
You were a little taking it out on me.
The only reason that I might have put it towards you is because the whole day you knew that I was in a bad mood and you were pushing buttons.
I like to do that.
I know. See, that's the thing. He does this thing where he knows I'm in a bad mood, and that's the day he chooses to push buttons and make jokes that he knows I don't like and try to agitate me more.
But Danielle, you have to see it like this. It's just draining. You know, at some point, you have so much patience built up because of that. When you're having a
bad day, I never push your buttons.
That's true.
Because I know that it would drive you absolutely nuts.
That's true.
So you can't really put that one on me. That's on you if you push buttons.
I won't.
But even after yesterday, I did, when I was at work, think about it again, and I did text you, and I said that I love you, and I'm sorry that if you felt like I was putting that towards you, I was just letting out frustration.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I always appreciate that, because that's those. The thing is, I couldn't care less. I knew that you were bothered by it.
I love when you say things like
that. The thing is, I couldn't care less because I know that you're bothered by something, and I know that you're not upset about me or whatever, you know. And it's fine to. I'm like that.
I mean, everybody is.
Right.
If you're frustrated by something and you want to talk about it, you're not going to talk about it calmly. You're going to be frustrated.
But the simple thing that just acknowledging it and saying, hey, I'm sorry, even over a text, is that's so much worth. And you see, oh, okay, she at least recognizes it, which is good, because then she can, you know, calm down herself. And it's nice to hear sorry if I upset you, or sorry if I seem to blah, blah. That's what I mean with just recognizing those things by yourself without the other person needing to tell you, or needed the feeling to tell you, hey, what you did, blah, blah, blah. And I think that's something everyone should do at some point, or that should be a goal, because
self-reflection.
Yeah, right. And that should happen not instantly, but after a couple of hours, it should happen at
not
least.
instantly, but automatically, I think.
And automatically you should come back to the person, even though it's already resolved, even though the other person doesn't care, because she knows you, or he knows you, or they know you. You should just then come back and say at least, hey, you know, if I seemed a little cranky, agitated, upset, I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah.
And the thing is, the whole thing with sorry, I think we live in a culture these days where we apologize, especially women, we apologize too much for things. And that's a whole other discussion. But I think it's important to make a connection or a distinction between apologizing for your actions versus apologizing for if you made somebody feel a certain way. Because I think there is a difference.
Obviously.
If you, I mean, you know that you didn't intend to hurt somebody when you said something, or when you, like for me, example, I was just frustrated and I didn't think I was doing something wrong, which I wasn't, because I was just letting out frustration. Yeah. But for me, it's, I would feel sorry if then my partner took it personally or felt like I was taking it out on them. Yeah. And so I think there's a difference between saying I'm sorry for what I did versus if I made you feel a certain way, I'm sorry, that wasn't my intention.
Obviously. And again, I mean, a sorry comes a long way, and it just shows that you acknowledge what you did, and maybe you did something wrong, maybe you didn't, but just to let the other person see, hey, I know what I did. I know that I seem a little blah, blah. And that's it. Yeah. There doesn't have to be a discussion about it or anything. It's just, it's that and it's done.
So, I mean, those are a lot of things that we just said that are like things that we've really worked on and things, how we feel like how far we've come. And I mean, honestly, just to be able to say we can't remember the last time we had like an actual argument.
We should have one today.
It's pretty, even that is a big milestone, because I remember when like 2 years ago, it was at least once a month that we'd have some big argument, even though it was probably not really a big argument, but felt like one.
A fallout, I would call it a fallout. Yeah.
And then, you know, we've been working a lot together on things. We talk about things a lot. We have been more open with each other. And I think that really does come a long way.
That's a point for me. That's something I want to work on more, to be more open about how I feel and how I am in certain ways, because that's sometimes hard for me to acknowledge if I'm working a lot, if I'm stressed, if I feel a certain thing. It's sometimes hard for me to acknowledge that. And
I mean, sometimes you don't even really notice it until after I ask you if everything's okay.
Sometimes I don't realize it until you ask me and I reflect on it. And it's like, oh yeah, it's true. I mean, that's my I think that's part of my health, my mental health shit, that sometimes I'm getting sucked into that. It's not a deep spiral, but it's like a slow spiral that, you know, turns and turns. And sometimes you just need someone to remind you, like, hey, is there maybe something wrong or something? But I get like this vibe that there is something, and then you reflect on it and you see, oh yeah, maybe I should like step back a little bit and reflect on that, and maybe take a day or like a few hours for myself, or do something good for myself. Or for me, it's just like trying to get away from work again, or trying not to stress about work as much.
Yeah, I think for you, it's also like almost a reflex when somebody asks if you're okay and you just say yes. Like,
I mean,
like for me, I can obviously almost always, I would say 99% of the time, when something's not quite right or something's off with you, I know it, but I don't know what it is always. I just know that there's something going on. And so if I ask you, is everything okay? Typically you say almost instantly, yeah. Yeah. You know, it's just like you don't give it any second thought. It's just everything's fine. And then sometimes I push it more because I know. And I'm like, are you sure? And I say maybe something like, you've been acting a little, you know, whatever. And you still, like, I think it's just kind of this reflex for you that you just, you don't, maybe you don't realize that something's wrong in some of those circumstances.
That's what I said. Sometimes I just need to step back and reflect and see, okay, yeah, that's true. I've been stressing about that, or I've been feeling that. And that's something I want to work more on too. Because also for my mental health, to recognize those little signals, those little patterns, and to stop myself from getting sucked into that state of mind. Because right now I'm doing fairly well. I'm not anxious at all. I sleep well most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, and I can enjoy myself. That's great. Yeah, is there something you want to work on, or are you already perfect, huh?
I'm basically perfect at this point, so
that's what I thought. Really
need to work on anything.
Good. That's it, everybody.
I mean, there's things I'm always kind of consistently working on. I'm always consistently working on like not feeling like my relationship anxiety, because that's something that always pops up here and there. And so that's something I continue to work on.
You've been
It's
pretty good
much
with that.
better.
Yeah.
There are some things that I just don't share with you because I feel like it's pointless to just repeat myself, because it definitely, there are still plenty of triggers for me.
Yeah.
But I try to just let them pass. So that's decent. But yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing I'm working on right now, because I guess the harder things for me right now in terms of my relationship anxiety are when, for some reason, a big trigger for me right now is when you like go somewhere like for work and you you're gone for a day or you're gone for, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's also partly due to the fact that we've been home the last over a year, and there hasn't been much of like us being gone from each other for more than like 8 hours at a time.
Yeah.
And so I think that's possibly part of it. But when you go away for a job for like an hour a day, then my relationship anxiety kind of kicks in a little bit more than
which is also weird, because
to.
then most of the time you're gone at least half the day anyways. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
But that's something that I want to continue to work on. And I mean, for me too, also being more open about like how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Which I think I've always been fairly good at, but there are definitely some things that are harder for me to talk about.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I want to also be more open about those things and try not to take any frustrations out on you that
That would be nice.
that have only to do with me. So
thank you.
But I don't think I take stuff out on you.
No.
I mean, sometimes everybody does, but
yeah,
I don't think it's too often.
No. But yeah, I think that's it.
Let's
end it here, because otherwise it gets too long. Thanks everybody for listening.
Like my penis.
Or my penis. Or your penis.
Mine's longer.
I read today that people with long noses have a bigger penis, apparently. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks for subscribing. And again,
I'm sorry, where did you read that?
That's been an article that's going around, and on Instagram there's this reel where people like enhance their nose on every picture they post now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty stupid. Thanks everybody for listening, for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider. And if you like what you hear, please share the podcast. That helps us a lot. And again, if you want to hit us up, you'll find all the details below.
Or
above. And we hear each other next week.
We do indeed.
Bye!
Bye.